Rimba Brekkie on your Friday morning, playing all the latest and the greatest in Christian music. That's Jet Trouble there, Way Out. It's 8 minutes after 8. Lovely to have you on board. Mick Wright in the chair with you through until 9 o'clock this morning. And as we mentioned, being the second Friday morning of the month, we are naturally speaking with our great friend Kelli Kieselbach, naturopath and nutritionist. And of course, being World Mental Health Day, this ties beautifully in with this one. Kelli, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm going great. Lovely to see your smiling face on a Friday morning. You've just had some time in Sydney, haven't you?
I have, yes, visiting my sister over there. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and a bit of a different scene for you for sure, other than the Adelaide skyline. You've had a bit of a look at the big smoke down there in Sydney. It is as crazy as what people say it is from other states.
Yes, it did certainly have more of a hectic feel than what I'm used to, but it was fantastic anyway. It was great.
Yeah, look, we don't mind. I go to Sydney quite often, and people always say to me, "What is the thing you love about Sydney the most?" And I said, "Well, sometimes it's looking at the rear view mirror. When I'm on the way out over the bridge or wherever. That's probably what I tell people at times, because it does get wildly crazy down there, but." Look, that's a story for another day. Now, again, today it is World Mental Health Day, and in conjunction with that, we're having a bit of a look at the connection with food and mental health. So to kick us off this morning, I think a lot of people can think of mental health as something that's just in the mind. It just affects the mind, but our physical health really plays a huge role there. So what are some of the, the biological and nutritional factors that really can influence mood and anxiety?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the mind and body are definitely intrinsically linked. So one is going to impact the other and vice versa. So some of the underlying causes or drivers that we now are seeing more and more come through in the research, besides just chemical imbalances, because a lot of people, sort of understand that there might be some imbalances or deficiencies in certain brain chemicals like serotonin. There's a whole host of other things that we see commonly. Some of those include nutritional deficiencies. So some really common ones are things like iron and B12 and protein. And omega-3 fatty acids, zinc. There's a whole host that can contribute to your mental health if you don't have a good supply of them. Blood sugar irregularities is a strong association with poor mental health and metabolic disorders like diabetes. So that insulin resistance, obesity, the dysregulation in the way the body uses sugar can really impact your mental health. Inflammation is a big one. Inflammation in the brain is huge. And gut health. So, right back to ancient times or other systems of medicines have all associated the gut with how we feel or think, often talking about the gut as like the second brain. And so we now know there's a big association there as well.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? I mean, a lot of times when people do suffer from things like anxiety and other kind of forms of mental illness that, you always feel it in your stomach, don't you? And I guess we never really put two and two together until you start to get into the science behind it and you realize, wow, all of our bodily systems are all so intricately connected that if one goes out, pretty well the rest of them all go out as well, isn't it? So
it has a flow-on effect, absolutely.
Yeah, it's literally the stone into the pond, that whole ripple effect throughout your entire system. Now, you've just mentioned this as well too. You talk about the gut-brain connection. So why do you think that link is so important when it comes to mental health?
So a lot of it comes down to what we term the gut-brain axis. So this is the two-way communication, bidirectional communication between the gut and the brain. So the brain talks to and directs the gut, and the gut talks to and directs the brain as well. And the microbiome, which is that ecosystem of bacteria and microbes that live synergistically with us in our gut, they have a profound part to play in this gut-brain axis. So they have a role by producing certain brain chemicals for us. So a lot of things like serotonin and GABA and dopamine are actually produced in the gut by our bugs. It also helps regulate the immune system, which is going to have an impact on inflammation. And it also directs, there's hormones involved as well, which speak to and provide communication for the brain. So all of these things can really impact our mood and our cognition, how we think, our thinking patterns and that kind of thing as well. So it's a very interesting space.
Yep, 100%. And oftentimes too, I guess when we're kids, maybe even when we're younger adults, there's always that sort of saying around when you see somebody who's a little bit grumpy or a little bit off or something, they're like, hey man, have you had something to eat yet? Or have you drunk enough water? Like have you had a decent sleep? Like what's going on with you? And a lot of this actually comes back to this, doesn't it? It's again, all of the systems of the body are so interconnected there. When one's out, the others can really be out as well. So I guess the next thing to ask you, and this is one for the listeners as well, what do you think that we still sort of tend to separate mental health from physical health if they're so interconnected?
Well, I think this is very much sort of comes back to how Western medicine has evolved to kind of reduce everything down into its smallest part. And we've sort of put the brain and we've put associating emotions and thought patterns with the brain, and we've kind of put them in its own little box separate to what's going on in the body. But the reality is that you can't have good mental health without looking after your physical health and vice versa as well. So we know our thoughts can impact our physiology, and our physiology can most certainly impact our thoughts and feelings. And so, the brain, we need to move away from this idea that the brain is separate from the rest of the body and really think about it as being part of the whole body, looking at that holistic approach. And when we nourish the body, we're also supporting the mind's ability to cope and to heal as well. So it's not, and we're not talking about choosing, we stop going to therapy and we stop doing all that psychology stuff and we just do the nutrition and the physical stuff. Not at all. But it's about choosing both and kind of addressing all aspects of our health so that when we combine them together, we get the best results and the best outcomes for our mental health.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, one of the things that I have noticed over quite a number of years now is that a lot of doctor surgery these days, they're becoming a lot more holistic in their approach to medicine. So, back in the day, you probably just went to the doctor and that was it. It was just the doctors and nothing else. But now you can go to different surgeries and clinics around the place. They've got naturopaths in there. They've got nutritionists. They've got exercise physiologists. They've got counselors and psychologists and all kinds of things in there. So thankfully, that is starting to change, in areas.
Yeah.
And look, I know here on the coast there are some great medical services around the place as well that really incorporate that whole holistic approach, and hopefully that is something that's going to, I guess, take off more and more in the medical field. So I guess moving on to the next one, what are some of the simple, realistic dietary changes that can help people feel more emotionally balanced or resilient? Because we're obviously talking about all of the the interconnections between all these systems in the body. What can people do about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few simple changes that you can make, because I recognize, when your mental health is struggling, overhauling your diet is not always
it's probably
realistic.
The last thing you're thinking about.
Yeah, exactly. And it's often the first thing that goes out the window as well, because our body and our brain starts to crave those more convenience foods, high sugar, high fat foods. But there are a few simple swaps that you can make that will support your mood. So things like avoiding the processed chocolate bars, anything comes in a packet, the colourful lollies, that kind of thing, and switching that out for some really good quality dark chocolate. So cocoa has some good evidence behind it for supporting mental health. It's got serotonin boosting properties, and it's really high in magnesium, which is so important for mental health. You can also switch out some of those savoury convenience snacks like potato chips and move to having more nuts and seeds. You can have salted nuts if you want, but this is going to give you some of those really good fats that your brain needs, as well as some of those really important minerals. So things like zinc and iron, selenium, that are so important for our mental health as well. And some other things is switching out ice cream or dessert and making sure you're having lots of fresh fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And white processed breads, moving towards more wholemeal or rye sourdough. So more of those complex carbohydrates where we're trying to reduce the impact of blood sugar highs and lows on your mental health. So you mentioned before about how people get hangry.
Yes.
Like, if they haven't eaten
real.
for a while, they get super irritable or they get more anxious. So a lot of this can be to do with those blood sugar drops
mm-hmm.
and, spikes and drops. And so the more we can even out that blood sugar, the less impact that will have. And so moving from those white products, so white bread, white pasta, to the more complex brown bread, brown pasta, that kind of thing is going to help with that. The same with moving away from processed commercial cereals. I won't name any names, but when you walk down the cereal aisle, all those colourful fancy boxes you see, moving to just simple rolled oats, adding some seeds to that as well is a great swap that you can make. And last but definitely not least is avoiding coffee on an empty stomach, particularly if you are someone who experiences a lot of anxiety. Making sure you start your day with a protein and fiber-rich breakfast, and then having your coffee after that or with that can make a big difference as well. So there's some really simple things that you can just sort of switch out with what you're already doing to give you a good foundation. And then if you want more personalized support, that's when, it works in really well to find someone, a nutritionist or a naturopath to work with to give you some more specific guidance that's going to suit your unique situation.
Yeah, and a lot of those food groups that you actually mentioned there as well too, a lot of studies have been done on those, and they've shown that they really increase inflammation in the body, which again they're finding is a huge driver for different mental health conditions, isn't it? The inflammation is crazy.
Absolutely. In fact, I think nowadays major depression is now classed as an inflammatory condition. Because of that distinct inflammation in the brain and the nervous system. And all of those foods that I mentioned, all those swaps are going to help with all of those physiological drivers right at the beginning. So the inflammation, the blood sugar control, the gut health, the nutritional deficiencies, by making those simple swaps, you're addressing each one of those in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, some great advice there. So now, yourself being a naturopath and nutritionist, I guess the big thing to ask you is, how would you and others in your field of expertise there, how would they sort of operate differently from conventional care?
Well, a big part of naturopathic or nutritional support is trying to address the root cause of illness and trying to identify how much those drivers that we spoke about are playing a part in someone's mental health. So doing a really thorough assessment and trying to get to the bottom of what's going on, and then trying to start there so that we get better long-term outcomes. The other really distinctive feature of the way a naturopath or nutritionist works is by taking a really individualized or personalized approach. So we're looking at the individual in front of us because, as you can imagine, we're all so different and unique. Our situations are different. We have different genetic makeups. We have different lifestyles, different stress responses, all of that. So really looking at that person as a unique person. What do they need specifically? What nutrients are they missing? What are their key drivers? And what are the best approaches for that person to get them the outcomes that they need? So I think that would be the key.
Yeah, it's super important too, because I know in the counselling and psychology field, even when we're talking about mental health, that obviously they look at an approach where everything is individualistic. So that, like you just mentioned there, everybody is unique. Their circumstances, their experiences, everything about their whole genetic makeup, everything is so unique to them. And, the one-size approach fits all doesn't really work in a lot of respects. We can have some similarities, but again, being completely unique individuals, it really is a very, we have to have that more tailored approach, don't we? So, thankfully, again, like I said, a lot of health practitioners are sort of moving, at least conventionally, are starting to move more in that area. Now, if somebody's already seeing a psychologist, or even if they're taking medication, how can nutrition and lifestyle support their recovery? So, what sort of natural therapies can fit alongside that more conventional treatment?
Yeah. So, well, as we've already spoken about, so providing that nutritional foundation so that the body's getting what it needs to do what it needs to do is going to be the real key starting point. And then from there, we have a number of natural medicines. So these might be plant-based medicines, so herbal medicines, or specific nutritional supplements that we can use to help balance physiological processes that are going on and impacting someone's mental health. And this could be as a standalone. So it might just be to support someone who is going through a lot of stress in their life and to help their body respond better to that stress. And we might use herbs that help to support mood or help balance the adrenal function, or to support gut health because, they're super stressed and now their gut's going all funny. So really trying to support those underlying processes. And then when people are this includes when people are already on medications. So there are some studies that have shown that using certain natural medicines alongside medication can actually enhance the impact of the medicines that they're taking. So things like folate and certain strains of probiotics can be super useful alongside conventional medications. The key thing here is to make sure that you do work with a practitioner to ensure safe prescribing alongside any medications that you're taking. So, but things like curcumin's a favorite, like that has some antidepressant properties. It's also great for the gut and with that inflammatory response as well. Looking at omega-3s is really important because that's going to help with the gut and with the brain. And then we have herbal medicines, things like St. John's wort, things like passion flower. These have building a lot of research behind them now to help with, at least mild depression and anxiety, which can be super helpful and have a lot less side effects than medications as well. So there's a lot of different tools that we have in our toolbox. And really, it's very hard to say, these are the things that I would use because as I said, it comes back to looking at that unique individual and what's going to work best for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably the best thing or at least one of the key things to take away this morning is, obviously if you are, again, taking any type of medication for any type of mental health issue and but you're hearing us this morning, you're thinking, wow, I'd really like to get on top of a few of these things. Always talk to your GP, your consultant GP first, just to make sure. And of course, don't go stopping your meds or anything like that. I mean,
no.
These are all
absolutely not.
These are all, I guess, parts of the puzzle that are coming together to create a bigger, healthier picture of you as an individual, isn't it?
Exactly. It's about just stepping back and taking that holistic approach. There's, you can use those conventional approaches, definitely using the talk therapy. I encourage, often my clients suggest seeing a counselor or a psychologist because they work so well hand in hand. And when you, like you said, when you're addressing multiple pieces of the puzzle, you can just get that next level of response, which, is so important. Like the mental health stats are not great now. So many people are struggling. So, anything that we can do to support someone's mental health is going to be an amazing adjunct to whatever else they're already doing.
Absolutely. Kelli, look, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you this morning. I could go on for another half an hour at least. I've got so many other other questions I'd love to throw at you, but we are completely out of time. As always, great to have you on board. Looking forward to chatting with you next month. We'll be going over another big topic as well. So how can people find you if they want to track down some of your resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to my website, which is kellik.com.au. So that's Kelli with an I, k.com.au. I actually have a free ebook looking at nutrition and mental health. So that's nice on the website for you to download if you would like. You can also contact me if you're looking for someone to work with. I do offer free phone appointments. We can have a bit of a chat first and see what you would, if I'm the right fit for you. And yeah, I am doing a lot of Zoom consults these days as well. So, geography is no boundary now, which is amazing.
That's right. Well, the internet and probably COVID had a lot to do with that as well. I think it pushed everybody over into that other sphere. So, there was definitely some silver linings in those clouds. All right, you hold the line there, Kelli. I'll get back to you very, very shortly. That is our great friend there, Kelli Kieselbach. This morning we are naturally speaking with Kelli. Once you stay with us, we've got the 8:30 news. That's coming up next.